Hello again, and welcome to another Build the Ghostbusters Ecto-1. This is still issue 6, we're on stage 16. And oh boy, this is a big one this week. We're going to be fitting the steering system. That's what's in the tray here. After we fit the steering system, we're actually going to be fitting the engine and then the first wheel. So, like I say, there's a lot going on. And it's going to take me a little bit to get through it. I'm not going to lie, this is not going to be the quickest one. I think some of the build's going to go faster than I anticipate, but we're going to get started. So I have a lot of screws over here, and for the start of this, I'm going to keep stuff in the tray so that I don't mix up some of the small pieces. I need to start with the stabilizer bar. Big old stabilizer bar, and we're going to put a couple little arms on it. And there are two of these guys. They're kind of little dumbbell shaped arms with a screw hole in each end. These are going to be attached with BP screws in what I believe are the only plastic screws of this week. Maybe not, there's quite a few in the bag here. Maybe some of the engine or something is held on with them. I need to go to a smaller screwdriver bit. Now, I don't know how crucial this is, whether you could flip this over. I think you could just mirror it. Oh no, they're not quite. So there is a top and a bottom to this. One side of this has just a flat. The other side has a well. That well is where these standoffs are going to go. Okay, so when those standoffs are on there, they're going to look like that. If it will focus, stay focused, thank you. So, now we have to bring the frame in, which is not that far out. And these are going to fit through from the other side. Fits under here, if I'm looking at this right, and up onto the underside of these linkages. It's going to be held in with two more BP screws, and that will round out all of the plastic screws. These upper holes are slotted, and I'm not sure what the exact correct position is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave them loose for a moment and put the next part on, which are a set of brackets that are supposed to hold this in place, and hopefully that will help me locate this a little bit better. So those brackets are, much like many of the other brackets we've had, little U-shaped pieces. So there's two of these. These are going to be held on with BM screws. So about the same size as the last ones, but with threads for cutting into metal. And these are going to take two each. And I believe that's going to finish out the BM screws. As a rule, you don't want to use a smaller screwdriver than you have to, because that's how you chew up the heads on screws, for the most part. Or that's one of the ways. Now, are these identical? Yes, they are. These do have a locating pin, but because of the way the pins are drilled, or the holes for the pins are drilled in the frame, either one will work on either side because you turn them 180 degrees. And once these brackets are on, I can go ahead and tighten up the other portion. with that in place. These screws did come all the way to the front of the slot, so I guess it can adjust a little bit. Go ahead and tighten these down. Perfect. So, with all of that assembled, it is this bar along the front. We are moving on to the steering. So the next thing we need to do, take this, put it just off the side a little bit, is start building up the steering linkages. There is a bracket, fairly simple, but it is a die-cast bracket, powder coated, and an idler arm. The idler arm can be distinguished from the actual steering arm by fitting. So the idler arm has this post that actually goes into the bracket. This has the end, the other side has the end for the steering pinion. So step one of this is to take a KM screw and to put these two pieces together with it. Again, I think this is our only use of a KM screw this week. So this goes through this way. The arm is on the bottom of this bracket. The bracket's actually going to attach to the frame, to the top of the frame. And this idler arm kind of just keeps the steering linkage balanced while the pinion is actually doing its thing. It's quite warm in here today. I may have to take some little breaks, let the camera cool off. You know, I suddenly remembered that I had some actual 3-in-1 oil, so I went and I grabbed that and I put a little drop here that I can dip screws in, and man, did that make it a lot easier to put this together. So, I actually went and I oiled up the bearing on the inside of this too. I'll probably do that on the other side as well. So that is it. That's the idler arm. That's how that one goes. Now, this is going to go, as I said, on the frame. There's a little cutout, and I never really noticed it before, but on the frame, here on the passenger side, there's a little notch. Right there, that's going to hold it. There's a quite a bit larger one on the steering side that I assume will hold the brackets for the pinion. But this is just going to sit in that opening, and it's going to be held on with a DM screw, which I'm also going to dip in this miracle oil. So if you see me over here in this other corner dipping screws and stuff, that's what's going on. I'm sorry, this is an LM screw here. I grabbed the wrong type. The DM is for the next step. Oh my gosh. I feel like a chump not using that this whole time. That's just so much easier. You know, and I feel like somewhere in here they actually suggested it. Maybe not. I don't know. I feel like somebody suggested it, maybe in one of these books, and I just kind of went, I don't want to go out and buy more stuff. And of course, I already had it because I've done lots of repairs that required it when I was fixing turntables and things. Now, we flipped it over. That arm needs to connect to the steering, so that's going to come up and be secured with that DM screw I mentioned earlier. And the matched hole on the opposite side, of course, will hold the steering arm with the pinion. Okay, so now that that is attached, right down here, we're going to go ahead and start building the pinion. And we start out with the housing. Again, this is all die cast, so that's the housing. That's the underside. And we're going to mount that on that, as I said, much larger cutout. So this is going to mount down here. That's going to be held in with one DM and one LM screw. So just to make this complicated, the DM screw goes towards the back, the aft of the car. The LM screw is going to go on the little round part in the front. Oh my gosh, 3-in-1 oil is a miracle. Okay, so now we're going to take the pinion. Now, I like this, I really do. This is a somewhat different piece. It is still cast, but instead of the powder coat, they've gone with this different finish, and it's like a high gloss. It might still be a powder coat. But this is a real working pinion. This steering column has the mate for it. And this is actually a working gear set. This is going to, when it's all put together, actually turn this. And I think that is really unbelievably cool. So, yeah. So that just drops in. We're going to flip this over in a second. We got to grab the other arm. Oh, and let me just bring that back. So again, this has an opening, but it is keyed. And of course, the end of the pinion has the same flat side for the key. This is going to secure with two more DM screws, one in the pinion and one attaching the arm to the steering linkage. Now, I may have to prop something underneath this to make this all stay. We'll find out in a moment. Nope, with the 3-in-1 oil and some light scarring on my finger, that all went together fine. We're now going to attach it to the other end of the linkage with another DM screw. Now the one thing at this stage is nothing is holding the pinion in place, particularly. It will do that. So, I think while I have it here, before I close it up, I'm actually going to oil it. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of oil, but I love the smell. I'm sure it's not good for me, but man, I think it smells good. Ensure that both wheels are headed forward. Push the steering column into the steering pinion so that the straight part of the cylinder at the top of the column is facing the rear of the car. Yeah. Okay. What? That is a nonsensical set of descriptions for something that's supposed to lean like that. I don't understand that description at all. But okay. That's all going to get covered over with this bit of housing. Housing looks like that. Obviously the high end is going over the top of the column. And really needs to be held in place by more than my fingers. So this takes 2 MM screws and 2 DM screws. The DM screws go on the inside and the MM screws go on the outside. So I'm going to start with the 2 DM screws because that's the first bag I picked up. And I really need this to hold in place on its own. Okay, I'm going to loosen these back up a hair so that I can make sure it's balanced when I put the other screws in. Now we need 2 MM screws. These are quite a bit longer. And these are going to go on the outboard side. And from here, we're just tightening everything up. So that is the steering column, and obviously the end of this will have the steering wheel. And this starts to give you a sense of scale here, because think about this for a moment. The engine is going to go up here. The steering wheel is going to be here. How much more car is behind this? This is a station wagon ambulance kind of layout, you know? So a lot more car. It is tough to turn this. I can feel it turn a little bit, and if I turn it from the wheels, it definitely turns. but it's quite stiff. There's no leverage trying to turn this this steering rod. So, okay, now we are on the point of no return. We are going to install the engine. The engine is going to be held in with 2 IM and 1 LM screws. And it is going to sit way up here. I see the mounts. So it's going to sit like that. Hoo boy! So we're going to get 2 IM screws through into those motor mounts. And hopefully not break everything while we're doing it. I don't quite have enough excuse me, I don't have quite enough hiccups. Terrible. I don't quite have enough car here to prop this whole thing up on a cardboard box like I did with the DeLorean when I was building up the last of the frame on that. So, this will be somewhat tricky. And I'm going to have to use their screwdriver again, because there is no way that mine is going to fit through that opening. Holy cow. We have an engine 2/3 mounted in this vehicle. The last screw is an LM screw, and it is going to go up behind the oil pan. I'll put a little bit more oil out here. I don't know if it's being soaked up by this pad. It occurs to me that this may not be great. This may eat silicone. So, I guess I'll find out. I think it is. I think the silicone's bubbling where it is. It's certainly flexed. I don't know if it's always been like that in there and I just never noticed. And with that, my rattly transmission is gone because the transmission is now held to the chassis. Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. Now, there's a couple of small things to do here before the wheel goes on. We're going to attach the power steering pump to the steering assembly with a couple of hoses. These are just the same old hoses that we always use. And looks like the inside one goes to the lower pin, if I can even see the pins. This is the pump here. We're going back to this. There's some tiny, tiny pins on the inside of this that are quite tough to see. What I can't tell is if I have it on the pin far enough. I think I do. Alright, sorry about that. I had a couple of fire trucks going by and they were being quite loud. But while they were going by, I did manage to get the hoses run from the pump down to the steering system itself. The last thing we're going to do today, we're actually going to bring in the wheel way back from episode 4, I think. And we're going to attach that here on the driver's side. So the inside of this steel rim, that hub's going to go over the brake, fit down, and then we're going to put the hubcap on. Now, it's come to my attention that the hubcaps that this came with, or the actual center caps, are wrong, so I'm going to be getting replacements. Yes, these are Cadillac logos, but they are full-color Cadillac logos. And on the car in Ghostbusters, they're not. They're black and white ones. They're kind of stylized. So I'll be getting replacements for those. I'm not going to bother putting the center cap on because I've seen it on the DeLorean. They're a bit of a pain to take back off. So I'm going to get replacements. We'll put those on when I get a replacement. But this is going to be held in with an LM screw with the nice chrome hub. Just gotta carefully fit that over the valve stem. LM screw, last screw of this week's build. And yeah, the oil's definitely eating my silicone mat here, so I'll have to put some other container out for it in the future, because I'm definitely going to use more of it. This is doing nothing! Let me try pre-threading this. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. That's how that's supposed to go. So, man, we got a wheel and everything here. Feels like there should have been a washer, but what do I know? No, instructions don't say anything about a washer. But the screw head sure looks like it's spinning with the wheel. Maybe I can use that to tighten it. I can. So, we got a wheel, we got an engine, we got a steering column. It's a little off balance because we only got half a frame and only one wheel. But yeah, that's it for this week's build. Check back later. I finally got that power adapter in for the DeLorean, so we'll be swapping that out. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that later this week or instead of Saturday's normal build. I haven't made up my mind. I do want to do the flux capacitor, so maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do them both. We'll see. Anyway, if you like what you see, consider subscribing. You can hit like buttons, all that stuff that everybody always tells you to do. You can check out playlists for any episodes you might have missed, and you can have a good one, guys.